You can officially forget about Bumble and DoorDash and Robinhood and even Oatly because there is a new biggest IPO in town. On November 10th, 2021, electric car maker Rivian finally launched its long-awaited IPO. And on that date, it crushed expectations and became the largest IPO to hit Wall Street in over 7 years. And not only has it become one of the largest IPOs in the last decade, it is now more valuable than some of the largest automakers in the world, like GM and Ford. So today I want to talk all about Rivian. Where did this electric car company come from? And can it take away the top spot from Tesla and become the world's most valuable automaker? I guess the electric car wars are starting a bit earlier than I thought, but I'm kind of here for it. Before we break down all of this and much more, my name is Nate from Minority Mindset News, and if you like this video, make sure to smash that thumbs up button below and hit that notification bell too. That way YouTube shows our videos to way more money minds around the world. We can keep making videos just like this one. Before average investors like you and me can invest in a company, that company actually has to go public on the New York Stock Exchange. The way that they do this is through an IPO, or initial public offering. An initial public offering is essentially a way for a company to get all of its financials in order. In addition, it has to decide how much one share of its company is worth and how many shares you can buy. That way, when you buy shares of the company, you know exactly how much of the company you actually own. And investing in an IPO is no different than investing in any other individual stock. When you invest in a stock, you become a partial owner in that company, at least on paper. You will have some voting rights within the company, but overall, you don't really get much power or say in what that company does, despite technically owning them. But the stock market and an IPO is a way for companies to raise money in masses. Essentially, they will give you partial ownership in their company, and in exchange, you give them money. The company can then take this money and invest it into multiple different things, mainly growing the company. And IPOs have been pretty popular over the last 2 years. In 2020 alone, 407 companies launched on the New York Stock Exchange as an IPO. That's more than double what we saw in 2019. And so far in 2021, there have been almost 1,000 IPO launches on Wall Street. And there are two major reasons for this. For one, companies have to gauge whether their IPO is going to be successful. If the country is in a downturn and recession like we saw in 2020, companies have to be very careful about launching on Wall Street, because honestly, they might not get any money. And it takes a ton of money to build resources in order to launch on Wall Street. But it's also a gamble for companies, because if they do happen to launch during a downturn and investors invest in them, well, that means they're getting in at the bottom and they can only go up from there. But like I said, this is a way for companies to get a lot more money. If a company isn't public, that means it's known as a private company. Regular, everyday people can't just invest in a private company. Private companies have to turn to private investors, who are typically already millionaires and billionaires. So launching as an IPO typically just opens the door for a lot of companies. Rivian was originally founded in Michigan all the way back in 2009. And since its founding, Rivian hasn't really done much except for start to innovate and work on its technology. Since its founding, it's built a long list of private investors and has gone down a very similar path that was originally carved by Tesla. Tesla is, of course, the OG in the electric car making world, and it was founded by none other than Elon Musk. I broke down the entire history of Rivian and its IPO launch in a separate YouTube video, and if you want to watch that video and learn everything you need to know about Rivian and Tesla, I'll link it for you in the description below. But over Rivian's 12-year history, things didn't really start to heat up until about 2017 through 2020. In 2019, two major companies invested a combined $1 billion plus into Rivian. The first was Amazon. Amazon took a 17% stake in Rivian and wants the electric vehicle maker to produce around 100,000 electric vans for the company. This is all part of Amazon's plan to make 100% of all of its delivery services 100% fueled by renewable energy by the year 2030. In addition, it wants 10,000 of these Rivian vehicles on the road by 2024. Amazon now owns around 20% of Rivian, and its investment is now worth around $20 billion. Also back in 2019, Ford announced that it would be buying up parts of Rivian. Ford initially invested around $500 million into Rivian, and it wanted Rivian to start building electric vehicles for Ford. But due to the fallout of the COVID-19 pandemic, this contract was ultimately terminated, but Ford still owns a small stake in Rivian. Since then, Cox Automotive has invested around $350 million into Rivian, and T. Rowe Price has invested around $1.5 billion into Rivian. And finally, by August of 2021, Rivian announced that it would soon launch as an IPO on Wall Street. Back then, it was seeking an overall valuation of around $80 billion. But that's not all. Rivian announced during this same time that it would begin production on a brand new electric pickup truck starting in September of 2021. And by October, it was delivering electric pickup trucks to consumers all throughout the nation. If you remember back in November of 2019, Tesla announced that it would begin working on an electric pickup truck sometime in 2022. And by September of 2020, around 600,000 people had pre-ordered a Cybertruck. But since then, the truck has been delayed, and now a lot of sources are saying that they're not sure if Tesla is actually going to start production next year. And Tesla's been around a lot longer than Rivian. So how was Rivian able to bring a brand new electric truck to market so fast? Part of the reason why Rivian was able to release an electric pickup truck so fast is because of the way the truck was designed. The Rivian pickup truck was built on a skateboard chassis. This is essentially a default setup for some electric vehicles, and it allows companies to take that chassis and then put any type of vehicle on top of it. Most automakers have their own type of chassis. Like Tesla, for instance, has another type of chassis that it uses for its Model S/X and Model 3Y vehicles. But those two vehicles are a lot smaller. They're more like sedans. Previously, Rivian designed and produced a sports utility vehicle. The chassis that this vehicle is on would ultimately become the chassis that the new R1T pickup truck is also on. And because of the skateboard's universal design, Rivian was able to just build a pickup truck on top of that. Meanwhile, Tesla has to completely redesign its vehicles in order to make them a pickup truck. Its chassis is designed for smaller vehicles and not trucks, which means it's going to need a new skateboard chassis design in order to build this new Cybertruck. The billions of dollars in funding that came from T. Rowe Price ended up paying off big for Rivian. They were able to build and produce these electric trucks very quickly, and now they have brought the world's first electric vehicle to market before anyone else. But now that brings us to November of 2021. With all of this being said, all of its funding and technology, Rivian is now a public company on the New York Stock Exchange. You can look them up right now on the NASDAQ with the stock ticker RIVN. And when Rivian launched its IPO, it was looking to price its shares at around $78 a share. In not even 48 hours though, shares of Rivian were trading at around $123 a share. That means in just 2 short days, Rivian became even more valuable than the big 3 automakers. That's Fiat Chrysler, Ford, and GM. And its current valuation is well over $100 billion. It was able to do this all in the span of 48 hours. Meanwhile, Tesla has joined the $1 trillion club. Rivian is already 10% of the way there, and it's only been on the stock exchange for 2 days. Meanwhile, Tesla has been public for well over a decade. And one of the reasons why Rivian's IPO has been so huge is because of their direct share program. Anyone that pre-ordered a Rivian vehicle could purchase Rivian stock before it actually hit Wall Street. And like I said, the original IPO was set at around $78, meaning anyone that pre-ordered a vehicle could get in on the Rivian stock at that price. A man in Texas who put down a $1,000 payment on a pre-ordered Rivian truck was able to purchase 175 shares of Rivian. He did so at the $78 IPO price, and now those shares are worth around $17,000. That's because the shares are already up by over 30% since the IPO launched. But the bigger question here is this: can Rivian take over Tesla and become the most valuable automaker in the world? Well, right now it is really difficult to compare the two companies. On one hand, Rivian has focused on the larger vehicles. We're talking sports utility and trucks. Tesla has also shown interest in this, but most of its vehicles are smaller. So it looks like the two are almost cornering the market in separate ways. On one hand, Tesla is cornering the smaller electric vehicle market, and Rivian is cornering the larger electric vehicle market. Here is the biggest difference between the two. This Rivian IPO is huge, and the company is now valued at over $100 billion. However, for the third quarter, Rivian reported between $0 and only $1 million in total revenue. In September of 2021, Tesla reported around $13 billion in revenue. So the biggest thing to note here is that Tesla is way more established in their market versus Rivian is still kind of starting up. In addition, by the end of 2020, Tesla has over 70,000 employees. Rivian, on the other hand, only has around 10,000. So my point here is that both of these companies are very, very different. Rivian is still an infant in this space. While it has one of the biggest IPOs ever, the company still really isn't making much money. We can compare this to the likes of Uber and Lyft when they began. Both are competitors within the space, but both also struggle to bring in steady revenue. And to be honest with you, I still don't know who is going to dominate the electric vehicle space. The industry as a whole is still in its infancy. And we haven't even seen what other automakers are going to do, like Volkswagen, Ford, and GM. All of these companies announced that they would switch to a completely electric model by sometime in the 2030s. So yeah, it's pretty easy to say that Tesla will dominate the electric car space for years to come because they are currently the only one dominating the space. But when consumers have more options, it's going to be tougher for Tesla to make sales. This is when innovation, speed, and impact will leave a mark on the industry, and it's something that Tesla is going to have to focus on for the years to come. But right now, Rivian is huge, and it looks like they're beginning to corner the large electric vehicle market. And with a current market cap of over $100 billion, they are definitely a force to be reckoned with. But now I want to hear from you on this issue. What do you think about this new electric vehicle war between Tesla and Rivian? Which one do you think will dominate the electric car space? Will it be Tesla, Rivian, or some new challenger in the electric vehicle market? Whatever your thoughts are, leave a comment below before you go. But that is it for today's business and financial news breakdown. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked this video, make sure to hit that subscribe button below. Keep hustling, money minds, and I'll see you all in the next one.